Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. I am your host, Chris Noble. And today we have two very special guests joining us for a joint interview on this podcast. It's going to be really exciting. They're going to be channeling some incredible entities, beings for us to bring in fascinating information as always, but we will also be distilling it into some actionable takeaways that you can integrate into your everyday life because that's what we love to do here, bring in some fascinating information, but also make sure that we can distill it and bring it to you in a way that can impact your day-to-day life in a positive way. So, without any further ado, I wanted to introduce our two guests today. We have our first guest, who is Thomas. It's Thomas Workman, and he is a fascinating individual with a PhD in communication and culture, and has spent many years teaching and leading workshops on communication and intercultural diversity through discovering, before he discovered his metaphysical gifts in Washington, D.C. And then since then, he is trained in Reiki, angel card reading, oneness blessing, and two feather healing, and is also completing a doctorate in theocentric psychology. Fascinating stuff. And then we have AJ Kavanagh, who is an Arcturian starseed, which we'll hear more about, originally from Australia. And he became aware of his intuitive gifts as a child, studied under one of Australia's leading clairvoyants, and has had a lifelong passion in ancient wisdom, metaphysics, and then that has taken him all around the world, including some sacred site activations like in Egypt, which we'll also get into as well today. So together, AJ and Tom blend their gifts to channel the guides, and they also co-host events and share their spiritual teachings through talks, workshops, and media, including their Soul Search TV series called The Infinite Pathway: Journey to Self-Realization. Fascinating stuff, really interesting. And as always, all their information will be in the show notes behind or below you. And you can follow up on them anytime you want throughout listening or watching this episode. But without further ado, let's welcome to the show AJ and Tom. Welcome to Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. How are you doing today?
Hey, very good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're doing great. We're so excited to meet your audience and bring in the guides for you as well.
Oh, yeah, we are excited for that as always. But before we bring in the guides, let's talk to the humans here, AJ and Tom. I would love to hear from both of you before we get into all the fascinating things we want to talk about today on the episode. I always love to start our episodes with a little bit about your background and from a perspective of your awakening journey. You know, we're talking a lot here on this channel, yes, about ancient wisdom and ancient history, but it all comes back to consciousness. You know, that's always the age old thing that never shifts is consciousness on this planet, off this planet. And so for both of you, I'd love to hear, what's your background been? For example, what was your first memory of that awakening moment, your first awakening to realize that there's so much more going on in this reality?
Well, definitely for me, mine began in childhood. I always had an awareness of being the observer. But what was interesting was that there was all of this metaphysical stuff happening around me. I happened to have a little cat when I was a kid, and the cat would crawl up on the bed and go to sleep between my legs on the bed. And all of a sudden, I'd feel this big jolt. And I'm like, what was that? And I would look at the cat, and I remember one time I was shaking the cat, and I thought, what happened? Did it have a heart attack? Did it die? And there was just no response whatsoever. And then something in me said, just wait and observe. And the cat sort of came back to its body, as it were, and it woke up. And I'd moved one of its paws, and it was looking awkwardly in its paw and sort of put it back into place. But what that showed me was that this cat was having an out of body experience. And I was just learning about all of those things like reincarnation and different dimensions and spirit guides and UFOs. There was this great couple of series in the early 70s, and I'm dating myself here, but you'll appreciate it. But Leonard Nimoy hosted this incredible series called In Search Of. And then there was Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. And all of that activated so much in me that was inherently within me. And, I was always the guy that would sense a presence in a room or see a flashing light in the sky, or much to my parents' frustration, always guess what was in the Christmas gift under the tree. So, I always kind of had these abilities, if you were, but over time, it was a matter of observing and developing and cultivating those. And that wasn't always the easy part, but I had some wonderful mentors along the way and wonderful partners along the way. Perhaps the most important is my husband, Tom.
Mhm. And for me, it was I was always sort of searching for something greater than myself, really looking for that. But growing up in Chicagoland, I grew up in a Chicago suburb in the 60s and 70s. I will date myself. There wasn't a lot of choice. So for me, that was typical Christianity, typical religion, and so I looked into church, but knew always that these answers weren't exactly right. That a lot of what I was learning and what I was being taught wasn't exactly right. I could just say it that way. And so there was always this desire to continue searching. It took a long time, though, for me to actually awaken into the opportunity. So when I took a new job in Washington, D.C., it was really this perfect opportunity, and I jumped on it. I went to every possible event, every class, every workshop, everything. And there I met my mentor, which was Sheila Cash, who started bringing me into psychic circles and channeling circles and really helped me develop. And I think that's really one of the messages we've learned together, that those gifts are as good as your mastery, as good as your ability to really let someone train you and let someone guide you as you develop, as you sort of strengthen. So who knew back then that it would turn into my sitting with AJ on a regular basis, co-channeling? That's a pretty unique thing. And we think that the purpose of that is to bring us towards oneness. Very soon we'll be evolving to the place where we're able to rely on our telepathy much more. And that's sort of what happens for AJ and I when we go into trance. We discovered by accident we were channeling together and giving each other turns to facilitate the other while they channeled. And one day, I typically channeled a group that I called the Grandfathers. They were native chiefs, and AJ channeled the Arcturians because he has quite a history with the Arcturians. And one day, I channeled the Arcturians, and he channeled the Grandfathers. And so we started asking, well, what's all that about? And they introduced themselves as the guides and said, there's everything in the universe is collective. We are a collective, and we would like you to be a collective channel. We would like you to share mind as we all share mind. And we'd like you to present our messages that way. And here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so unique, and I've worked events called like the Channel Panel and have been
Yes.
around a lot of this. And first of all, I would love for you guys to break down to our audience here, what is channeling? We talk about it a lot in our
Mhm.
circles, but to the rest of the world, we both can probably agree it looks a little crazy. It looks a little out there, right? It looks a little um, whatever word you want to use. But of course, I've been around this long time as have you two, and we all know the validity at least of a lot of these channelers, and it's more the information that's coming through is so powerful, so amazing, and the energy as well. You just can't
Yeah.
fake that. It's incredible. But I would love for you to explain to our audience, let's say to someone who hasn't witnessed channeling before, because we're going to get into that, of course, later into this episode. So to prime people for that, what is channeling? What is it like for you when you're channeling? What does that feel like? And then third part of the question, what is the double, like if you can go deeper into this double channeling simultaneously, that's very unique.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, let me start by saying I don't think channeling's unique at all. I think we all do it. I think we all have capacity to act.
Mm.
I think many times we're in a situation where the perfect thing comes to mind to say, and we say it. We usually call that the muse, or we call that inspiration or something else. So I think there are voices speaking to us all the time. The question is, how well are we paying attention, and how well are we developing a system with ourselves to make that effort to actually speak on behalf of that entity? So there's a lot to that, and there's a lot in terms of our spiritual development I think is important. I think for us, there was this desire to know, and there were questions that we had and things we just wanted to inquire. We knew that there was a universal intelligence that we really wanted to tap into and explore. And I feel like ask and it's given. It was kind of given in that way. But I don't think it's unique at all. I think it's something that we all do, though we're not all practiced at it and we're not all masters of it.
And I'll just say quickly there, I love that you said that because, myself, I'm a musician by trade, and I know a lot of my other artistic creative friends out there. I mean, we're all creative, let's be honest, but on the artistic side of that, we're channeling constantly when we do our art. And I definitely know that now with my music. And I'm glad to hear you say that because I've always, I've had friends that have channeled and they speak all these amazing things. And I've always felt like, oh, why can't I do that? And then I've realized we are always doing that. It's just different ways that it manifests, right?
So that's so interesting. That's really what self realization is as we understand it. The guides talk about that an awful lot. And it means being able to understand where our role in all of that is. And it's different for all of us because there's this beautiful diversity and variety of ways that the universe speaks to us. So I'm moved by a symphony or even a popular song that I just think, oh, that is divine, literally divine, and what it does for me and what it says for me and how it speaks to me
Yeah.
is pretty powerful.
Yeah, music almost always uplifts. It
Mhm.
always brings you closer to the light, closer to your own divinity, closer to your own sense of your own beingness as you relate to songs and the messages in those songs. So, it's no surprise that, they're probably all channeled. They're probably all for a reason. But it's interesting because, in this day of influencers, we're very good broadcasters. The trick is to become good receivers because we're equally strong as a receiver as we are as a broadcaster. And that's why, practices such as meditation, stillness, appreciation, letting go, creating a space, all of those things allow you to become a good receiver. And so what's interesting is that, each and every one of us have guides. And those guides are constantly talking to us, and they can come in so many various ways. It could be a little bird on the windowsill one day that snaps you out of your thoughts and pivots you somewhere else. Or it could be a relative that's passed on that was always very affectionate that, leaves a lucky penny everywhere you go. And I actually knew someone, and she communicated to her father that way, and she had this huge jar of pennies that she had collected because it was just his way, and they would turn up even around the house, and she really didn't keep change. So it's amazing that the divine will always find a way to get a hold of you, but you have to make that time, allow yourself to receive.
Mm.
I love
That
that. It's so well said. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to talk a little bit about the channeling process because, we mentioned that the guides are always talking to you. They're not always using words. In fact, I think a lot of the entities that we communicate with have a difficult time with human language because it's so limited. And so really when we channel, we are sometimes given geometric shapes, or we're given colors, or we're giving objects, or we're able to see scenes, those sorts of things. And part of our role as channels is to interpret that, is to translate that, if you will, because it truly is an energetic exchange more than it's anything else. So as AJ mentioned, for us, it's a matter of really getting quiet and really getting focused and really concentrating so that we can remove ourselves.
Yeah, we step out of the way. So we clear our mind and we just allow the guides to literally speak through us and to use our vocabulary, to use our knowledge, to communicate the messages of the divine. And it's interesting because, if you watch us on YouTube or anything like that through our YouTube channel, you'll see sometimes they correct us and they say, no, not that word, this word.
That's right.
And it's fascinating because they really want to get it right.
That's right.
It's really quite fascinating. And sometimes the language just doesn't have it all there, which is interesting because, that's why there's no mistake that the ancients built these amazing monoliths all around the world, and they placed them on these amazing energy centers and ley lines to help amplify that energy as well. It's very intentional.
But it really requires a lot of trust. So, in other words, when you let go to that degree and you really trust that what's going to come through is for the greater good of all, then you can sort of get your own mind out of the way. It is this matter of just simply allowing them to speak through and trusting that what they have to say is going to be of greatest benefit. We often don't quite recall what is going on for us in trance. We're trance channelers, as many are, and don't always recall it till we go back and read the transcript or
Yeah, the
rehear the
recording.
recording. Yeah.
Yep. And it is why we call ourselves speaking from source too, because, we're aiming from the point of view of the divine. And in the divine, there's no separation. There's only the truest, highest, and the best. And just like the guides that help you maybe with a relationship, and then you might have another one for career or another one, for your own personal growth at any given point in time. That's why we channel a collective as well, because they step forward to answer the questions that they're kind of specialist in. It's really interesting how it works.
I think the other thing that's important for your audience to understand is that there's a growing number of channels that we've heard quite clearly, and many others have as well. There's increase in the number of individuals who are beginning to channel. We see it. We meet someone new almost every day, and the reason why they say is because everyone hears it a little differently. And so, really, when we were, invited by the guides, I guess I'll say, and they sort of explained what they wanted us to do, my first reaction was, "Oh, come on, you got some great people. You don't need us. You got some wonderful channels out there." And they said, "No, no, no. We need you. You have your own unique set of perspectives and experiences that we wish to use." And that you will be heard by parts of your audience that others may not, right? Others may not be able to relate as well to someone else. And so we've just trusted that and allowed that to be.
I love that. And it's so true, right? If we just, I think even with the arts, I kind of have to lean back to that perspective. Every time any of my other creative friends want to figure out, like, how can I have a more unique sound with my music or a more unique look with my art? It's just, well, be yourself, be as much of you as you can. And it will resonate with who it's meant to resonate with. And that's why I totally agree. I think it makes sense that everyone has that. Obviously, everyone can channel, and everyone that does decide to do that and communicate that, it's going to land differently with different people. There's billions of us, so I think that's probably a good thing,
Yeah.
to have as many people out there communicating that as possible. Thank you very much for that really fascinating breakdown. I always love hearing it explained because it's always a little different, and like we were just saying, it lands differently depending on who's explaining what channeling is. So for our audience listening and watching, this is what we'll be experiencing very soon. But before we get to that, I have at least one more question here, because you touched on this, AJ, with the sacred sites, the monoliths, these incredible structures. I'm obsessed with, out of place artifacts, ancient high technology that we can't explain, all this fascinating stuff. That's really the foundation of this podcast and channel. Of course, we love to branch into all these things now because it's all connected. It's all one, as we know. And I would love to hear from your experience in Egypt in particular, but other places that you may have gone as well. What is it with these specific? I'd like to talk about the specific buildings, these constructions, these places like, let's say, the Great Pyramid or the Osirian as two examples in Egypt that I've been to both, and I will be going back with a group in September of next year. What is it with these places? How are they so powerful? And what, from your perspective, do you think is really happening with yourself, the human, let's say, template that's there, interacting with these sites? But like, what are the sites doing? How is it the geometry in which they're built, the materials? How are people having these incredible experiences there?
Well, many of these sites were built in co-creation with ancient aliens that were on Earth. The Earth is a lot older, and its history is a lot richer than even the ancient sites that are around today for us. And in these ancient times, they had an awareness of oneness. They had an awareness of how we're connected in spirituality, and they imbued much of that knowledge in the stones and the temples that they created to uplift humanity, just like in a very similar way we build churches today. Even the fact that we build churches on sacred energy lines that crisscross the earth. Mother Gaia herself is a sacred temple, and we are sacred instruments on that temple as well. So that there's a lot that we can bring forward from ourselves in our own connection to Mother Earth, even through a tree, for example. But when you get all of these ancient civilizations that have intentionally and specifically honored deities and practices, it really is amazing to see the messages that they left and the technology that they've displayed. You just have to visit the great pyramids of Egypt and realize that it's something way beyond what humans can construct. And the fact that it's the last of the great wonders of the world that's existing today is a testimony to that. But there are many smaller sites around the world that are far less known among the populace that are equally as sacred as well. So, it really is fascinating, this interface that we have, this drive towards spirituality that every culture has had over the millenniums. And what's interesting is that, many of these sites line up to the equinoxes and different star patterns as well. The pyramids, for example, with Orion's belt. There's a lot of sacred geometry there, sacred astrology that is just absolutely incredible when you dig deeper.
But it's so true. I've heard people like John Anthony West and many other fantastic. I went to Egypt in 2019 with Dr. Robert Schoch and Mohammed Ibrahim, and we were all of us, even though they've been many, many times, you're always blown away every time. You learn something new every time, and you can't explain these things through even a great documentary, which there's plenty of. Until you're there, you just don't understand the magnitude of what these places really are, and how these things were constructed to elevate human consciousness, and probably many, many other purposes. I believe they're multi-purpose structures, but it's fascinating. I mean, you were saying these were built by ancient aliens. I would love to elaborate on that. Who are these ancient aliens? What's this all about now?
There's no separation in the divine realm. And so a lot of the ancient aliens, as it were, coexisted together. And as far as cultivating the garden of earth, as it were, there were specific lineages that were responsible to do that, including the Arcturians, the Palladians, the Lemurians, for example,
Syrians.
the Syrians. And they're all still very present today, and we'll be hearing more from them, by the way, as well. So it's going to be a divine full circle as we come into this greater awareness and higher consciousness again with them. But yeah, and you just have to look at a lot of the technology that we have around us, even just the way a silicon chip is made. It's almost beyond belief how they got, those 7 layers of sand and gold and glass and everything to be able to create a silicon chip, let alone all of the other, technology that we have today. And you can look at it and go, wow, that's got to be reverse engineered.
Yeah, I just did a live stream with Neil from Portal to Ascension. We did a little live stream on the most recent congressional hearing about the
Yes.
UAPs and all that good stuff. And so, although it still doesn't get the attention I was hoping it would get, it's still. I mean, these are the times, right? We're in these incredible transitionary, awakening times, and disclosure with our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters is going to be a massive, massive part of our global awakening, and I'm so very excited for that. So perhaps with that in mind, we could move into meeting these guides and having a
Sure.
conversation to enlighten our audience with. So as we talked about offline just before, for our audience watching and listening to know, we're going to start with a little bit of a guided meditation, right? To then
Mhm.
prep and prime everybody, because the stuff that's going to come through is really powerful, and we want you to be able to get the full experience from that. So I invite everyone watching and listening to just take this in with open eyes, open heart, and let these beautiful gentlemen take you away on a beautiful journey of information and wonderful energy. So let's go for it.
It's from here that we call in our glorious guides, and we invite in all the guides of those who are here, Chris and all of his listeners, to join us around this etheric table with our own guides. We ask that only those of the highest vibration, those closest to the light, join us at this time. We ask that you share whatever is most important for us to know for our greatest and highest good. We invite you now to provide for us whatever is needed, and we ask that you enable AJ and I to communicate your messages clearly and concisely for the good of those who are listening, and we thank you.
Indeed, we are grateful for the opportunity to share in your energies and this transmission with you today. We must open with an important premise in that we must share that there is no separation. We say this to you so that you may understand that contact with us can be found at any point in time in your sacred temples and your sacred sites, in your homes, in your gardens, in your hearts, and in your dreaming. Simply a matter of intention, simply a matter of allowing, simply a matter of trusting, for we are there. We have always been there, and now we join you in this process and together of co-creation, for together we are stronger, yes? And together we expand in our own individual and collective learnings, yes? And together we step into the flow of universal energy, that universe that is constantly creating and expanding.
Your questions bring us forward. Your questions call to us. For we wish to answer all of them. Your wondering, your desire to understand the universe that you live in. This is what harkens us closer to you. For what purpose? You must ask, for knowledge is not the goal, but self-awareness. Self-realization, this is the word we wish to use. Your ability to realize who you are as an eternal soul, and how this incarnation you are living now plays an important role in your eternal search to understand your soul, lifetime after lifetime. Your ability to experience and to try various aspects of your life in whatever form you incarnate into, have lived on other planets than just Earth. All of these experiences for you are guiding you to a self-knowledge, an ability to understand the magnificence of your creation, the magnificence of your eternal being.
Indeed, what a wonderful time for you, an exhilarating time of self-awareness as you step into the collective consciousness and open yourselves up to greater senses, greater understanding, greater purpose, greater meaning. For so many of those things, even now, you are beginning to experience are falling aside. Their importance that you once coveted now diminishing as you step into a greater understanding of who it is and what it is that you are.
It is the weaning of distractions that you are learning. Yes, it is the understanding that there is more to your life. There is more to your world. There is much more to humanity that you have yet to discover and are discovering. Yet this requires the ability to separate from these things that are distracting you and pulling your attention. Yes, getting your attention is sometimes the hardest aspect. Circumstances now that surround your world are not designed to undo you, but are designed to pull your attention, to bring you closer, to ask new questions, and to hear more about who you and who the universe itself is.
Well, thank you so much. And my first question is kind of in light what you were just talking about with our current situation on planet Earth. We're all awakening. There's a massive shift in consciousness. And something that I've noticed, and I know a lot of other people have noticed, and I'm very curious about, is time. I feel that time is shifting and moving and becoming less and less linear. Things like the Mandela effect that we call on our planet, where it seems that branches in our timeline are moving and shifting, and parts of our past keep changing. And of course, this is a show about our history, but is our history even static? I don't think so. It's always shifting. So, my question for you, beautiful beings, is what is time going to be like on this new earth? Are we going to be experiencing something completely different? What is that all about? I would love to learn more.
Now, beloved, the concept of time is a human creation, for there is no time in the universe, for as you have alluded, and is true, all is in the now, all is occurring in the present moment. And we encourage all of you to focus on the present moment, for there is all the blessing that is needed. All has culminated to this moment, all is drawn toward it. And so we return to this idea that a time which you mark as a way of understanding your incarnation is not as important to the universe. And so as you grow in your consciousness, you find yourself releasing this necessity, for it does not serve you as it once did many of you captives to this concept of time, holding time as a measure, determining what is a good amount of time or what is too long or too short. All of this is ready for your release. For you see that the moment that exists for you is the now, whether the now is incarnation or in the entire universe.
Indeed. And so, to your question, what shall this look like for humanity? And we are delighted to share that it will be an understanding and appreciation of what it means to be in the perfect present. For so many of you are working, striving toward a desired future, a desired outcome, and yet, as it were, not stopping to smell the roses, to appreciate the abundance and the opportunity and the potential for expansion, infinite expansion in the now. And so as the consciousness unfolds within the human, shall to come this awareness and appreciation of the perfect present, coming for you to enable you to do what you enjoy now, to be who you are now, to express as you are now. And there shall come great joy, great connection, and great transformation upon your planet.
Learning that there is no perfect time. What a lovely discovery for you, so that you may live in the now. You may choose not to wait You may not wait for conditions, but simply realize you are master of these conditions.
I love that. Thank you. With that in mind, how can we as a species, how can we as humanity manifest our highest timeline? What are some ways that us as, I guess, individuals and collectively can bring in and manifest the most positive, highest vibrational timeline in this multiverse?
We adore this question, for you see, there are many influences to your thoughts, yes? There are many ways in which you can fill your thoughts with stories that are not servicing you well, that are not giving you what it is that you wish. It is easy to focus your attention in ways that are not expanding you and not bringing you closer to those things that you wish. Become conscious of what it is that is capturing your attention and what it is that you wish to give your attention to. Yes, this is the most important choice that you can continue to make. It is easier than you may think, for you say, I am surrounded by reality, and yet not necessary, for there is many forms of reality around you. The beautiful day, the gorgeous animals that are interacting on your planet. There are many things that can draw your attention rather than war or rather than men's inhumanity often to their fellow human. There are many things that you can focus upon differently. And so we encourage you, as you wish to speed to a timeline where you are able to fully become part of the universe in an active way, that you begin by refocusing your attention. Those things that you pay attention to are the realities that you create.
Indeed, and you must further understand that it is this self-realization, the calling in of your own divine I am, this realization of your own power through your intention, through your energy systems, your chakra systems, through your thoughts, and as we said, your attention to bring forward your own light, to find and discover your own divinity, and to simply do in the present moment those things that you find joyous, that you find enjoyable, those interactions that allow your own light to shine with others and bring out their light in them just as they are, for just who they are. This is the transformation that shall occur on the planet. But, dear one, notice it does not start with an external event. It does not start with an external being. It starts with your own self-realization, your own intention, and the expansion of your own light.
We encourage you toward the collective, for this is where you are headed. This idea you call oneness, this is actually simply a collective humanity that has put aside its differences, has accepted and allowed one another to be as their individual selves were created to be, but to join collectively, to work cooperatively and collaboratively. This is the future we are guiding you toward. And so, dear ones, we say often, it is your choice for when this timeline becomes activated. So, when it is that you separate yourself from other humans through judgment, through anger, through whatever reaction separates you, decides one is better than the other, one is richer or more attractive or more talented than the other, and then you slow down this progress. When you cut off someone in traffic, or when you yell at someone who has cut you off in traffic, Note that you slow this timeline for the decision to ascend towards this collective is based on each of your individual choices. Some of you speeding the way, reckoning the day. Others of you not interested and slowing down this process.
Thank you so much. Wow. I love that. And I think just for one more final question here, I would love for you to share any final messages for humanity, for us as a collective, and perhaps to encourage us in whatever way you feel fit, because I think a lot of us can sometimes feel very, very alone on this journey and on this planet, but I know that we are not alone. So if you could share any final messages, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Let us share the most important message of all. And we cannot say this often enough until you fully realize it. You are adored by Source. You, not to humanity, not to the human race, but you individually are created purposefully. You are created as an eternal soul with a purpose in mind, with a design. In other words, you are no accident. And yet many of you still say these things to yourselves and hold yourselves back from all that is available to you. You are not only not alone, but you are adored by the universe that works collaboratively, cooperatively, together towards your greatest and highest good. But you say, there are times when life does not go well for me. There are problems that I encounter. There are speed bumps, if you will, towards my progress. Yes, also for your greatest and highest good. For contrast plays such an important role in your self-realization. How shall you know what you want till you know what it is you do not want? We would encourage you first and foremost to spend time recognizing how adored you are by Source itself, by the universe itself. There you shall find many doors open.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. That filled up my heart, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening. Thank you so much. And if we could bring back Tom and AJ now, that would be super appreciated. But thank you again. I really appreciate everything you've shared with us.
Before we leave, we wish to bless your audience, and so we ask you to allow us to send our energy to you so that you may feel that love and not just know it.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, that was
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
You I always people ask often, what was that like for you? And does it drain you or anything like that? And although I don't remember everything, yeah, I just feel sky high.
Remember
It's
the
it's just
feeling.
the
Yeah.
energy and the feeling, and you know what I kind of get, the message I kind of get is there's so much potential for you to step into, and you have the capacity to do that should you choose. And so it's a very exciting time in that respect.
We had someone who's come to see us a lot. They've been in a lot of our channelings. They were a private client, but they've also been to a lot of our group channelings. We do a once a month online channeling.
Yeah.
They've been to a number of those. And she said to us recently, I've heard the guide say I'm adored by Source probably 30 times. And just the other day, I got it.
Mm.
And when I got it, everything changed.
Yeah.
And so I would really encourage your listeners. I think this is what AJ and I ourselves are trying to do, is to constantly remember that we're adored, because we beat ourselves up terribly. We really do.
Well, and that leads to an important point, because once I accepted who I was and was comfortable with myself, my authentic self for who I am, my abilities actually leapt forward.
Mine too.
And that's when I met Tom, and
Mhm.
and immediately we had not only a physical attraction, but a spiritual attraction, and it was perfectly aligned and perfectly destined. And of course, the guides opened up so much more about that to each of us. But I will say that many of us are striving to be something that we're not, which is
Well, we
why
don't need to be.
we don't
Yeah.
dress up like Cleopatra and Napoleon when we channel, right? We don't have a big crystal ball and do all of that hoo-ha. We just our two guys, our authentic selves, and that's where it's at. And so I would encourage you, and your audience to really just step back and to learn to love who they are, and that they are adored unconditionally for who they are from source.
So when we hear self-realization, we often think, oh, that's a list of everything that I screw up, right? Or everything wrong with me, right? Self-realization, that's what we've been trained and we've been taught. Unfortunately, that's what religion has taught us, and why religion is being replaced by true spirituality. And instead, when we say self-realization, it's all these wonderful things about who we are,
Yes.
about what we are. And again, it's an eternal journey. And so imagine all the things that you've learned about yourself when you were a Roman soldier, or when you were helping build the pyramids, or when you were around, in one of those wonderful temples doing an initiation. All of those experiences here and on other planets and other solar systems are these wonderful opportunities to show you how wonderful you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the task at hand, really.
And all of those ancient sites around the world are all about self-realization, helping
right.
you learn about you and your divine cosmic connection
To the universe. So your relationship with the universe, darkness and light, gods and servants, all of that is part of this wonderful initiation. The mystery school is really to tell us who we are and who the universe is in relation to who we are.
Absolutely. So well said. My heart's very full after that transmission, and also speaking to both of you gentlemen in your human form, and also what you've been channeling. I feel very uplifted as well. I know my audience certainly is as well. For the sake of the audience right now, where can they connect with you, and what have you got coming up that we could be looking forward to?
Well, the best place to connect with us is on our website, which is simply speakingfromsource.com, as I'm sure it's down below in the notes. And that's got everything, all the information about the events, where we're appearing or where we're channeling, any of the other products that we produce. We produce a weekly email called Wisdom Wednesday that has a short message from the guides and a little bit of an explanation. Very simple email that you can subscribe to for free. It's our free gift to you.
We'd love everyone to sign up for that. Actually, a lot of people find that really inspirational each and every week. And we have a beautiful Circle of Light membership community as well, so you can keep that dialogue and going, and meet with others of like mind as well that love to follow the messages of the guides. So with that, back to you.
I love that. That's a great thing too, because I think the community is really important, and can feel like a bit of
Communities
a
popping up
right
everywhere.
everywhere, because we need it, and I think more and more people that are awakening to this world, this reality, this higher dimensional perspective, it can be jarring, it can be really challenging, it can also make you feel a bit like a black sheep in your family all of a sudden, or your group of friends, and to have that camaraderie, and to know that you're not alone, and to know that you are adored, is very powerful. And I think there's also still a lot of people that have yet to find their tribe, so to speak. And so that sounds like a great resource. So everyone listening and watching, please check this out. And thank you, AJ and Tom, so much. Thank you very, very much for everything today. Really appreciate you two sharing your gifts, your wisdom, and of course, bringing through the guides. And that transmission was just so powerful. So any final words before we sign off on this episode today?
just really grateful to be able to be with you, to spend time with you, and to see your own many gifts shining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure. So, thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. And we will catch you on the next episode. Until next time.